Last week, in Brussels, he said that the Vox 2025 result was able to stop the Ukrainian membership process. This is what the European Commission spokesman said. What happened in the meantime? Why hasn't the Commission taken notice of the results yet?
Well, this sentence you chose is interesting. It didn't come to me as vividly as it did when I listened to you. You said that there is no reason at all. Is that what you meant? He said everything about Brussels. We only have one reason. This is how people decided. There is a reason, but unfortunately, it doesn't play a role in their heads. My hypothesis or assumption is that if a vote would be held in each of the EU member states, just like in Hungary, in the Vox 2025, that Ukraine would join the EU, then I think in the majority of the countries, but maybe in every single country, people would say no, just like in Hungary. Because the elites in Brussels, the bureaucrats living in Brussels, they might be able to give a complicated explanation as to why it would be good for Ukraine to join the EU, but people have two very simple, groundbreaking, obvious, evident answers as to why not. The first one is that if we take up Ukraine, which is at war, we take up the war as well. And we don't want a war in Europe. The second one is that joining Ukraine will destroy our economy. There is a huge risk. The more you come from the east, from the Atlantic Ocean to Ukraine, the greater the risk of destroying the economy if you become a member of Ukraine. We are at the eastern end of this line. We are Ukraine's neighbors. The closer you are to Ukraine, the greater the risk of a war and the destruction of the economy if you become a member of Ukraine. So the committee is on the wrong path. They think that without people, it is possible to make an important decision that will determine the fate of the whole of Europe. They are wrong about this. The membership of Ukraine will not happen. Now Hungary has stopped. Even though they say they don't pay attention to it, they are forced to. They can't get through us. They can't get out of us. I'm sure there will be a lot of harassment. You can hear this from the voices of the leaders. But the reality is that in the end, there is no way for European people to oppose Ukraine. And by the time we get there, we won't be alone. Just like in migration. We were alone there for the first time. And now if we look around, everyone is with us, almost exclusively. The same thing will happen in the war, peace, and the membership of Ukraine. People feel in Europe that we are living in the shadow of a direct war. This is how the spirit of the times describes it. We are living in the shadow of a war. Basically, of course, we are in the shadow of a European war. The Ukrainian-Russian war. But there are wars in other parts of the world that we pay less attention to. But there was this Israel-Iran. Then there was Pakistan-India. So there are hot spots in the world where the news comes to us. And I think that if we have to write down what age we are living in, people write down our life as a period of war. And here in Europe, this comes from Ukraine. We have to get out of the island. We have to stay out of the war.
At the same time, the Vox 2025 took place in the meantime, and since then, they have been attacking from Brussels, Kyiv, Budapest. The politician said that you are advocating the position of the Hungarian people, that less than 3 million people voted. Hungarian Péter, the president of the TISA party, wrote that the result was only 95%. How much pressure is there now, even in the consciousness of the results, in Hungary to change the position of Ukraine?
Well, let's answer these opinions separately. In Hungary, there are people who think that it is right to hurt other people, that it is acceptable, that if they like it, they can do it. So I don't think it's right to complain about the vote of 2.3 million people. I don't think even the TISA party or any talented musician can do it, who calls the government parties, or the people qualified for the Vox 2025 party. You can't talk to each other like this. There is no talent for this, no youth, no political ambition. It doesn't give a foundation. So we have to reject these. We have to defend each other. We have to defend each other for the people who want to give respect to each other. That's why I'm talking about this now. So let's stop. Here are the foreigners. That's another story. They think and have already done something like this. In the history of the Union, this is not an example, because the bureaucrats in Bucer have a lot of money, from which they send huge amounts of money to Hungary to influence politics. We still have to deal with this in the summer or early autumn. So, they think that they have a lot of money. There are 30,000 people working there. They have the influence of diplomacy. They have the media power. And with the help of the members of the committees in one country, in this case, with the help of the members of Hungary, they can achieve fundamental changes in the internal political relations of each country. So, Bucer doesn't hide the fact that he has interests in each parliamentary state election, and he would like to govern one party and not the other. So, he wants to tell people, and this will be the case in Hungary as well, he wants to tell Hungarians who to vote for, how to live, what position they should occupy in important issues. I think this is out of place. This is not right for Bucer. This is a rejection of power. This is not why we created the European Union. This is not why we created Bucer, to exert pressure on the citizens of the member states to express their political opinions. They have no right to do this. As a result, these must also be refuted, and our own interests, our own conviction, our own way of life, our own principles must be followed, as Hungary does. I am very proud of my country from this point of view, that Hungarians, as much as possible, immediately come and express their opinion, even in the most complicated questions, from Brussels. And if we manage to put it into good words, then we will have an opinion, we will say it, and then we will represent it. And I hope that Hungary will always have such a government. Now it depends on whether we are a government, but it will always be a government, which will stand out everywhere, thus in Brussels, in the interests of Hungarians.
If we are already talking about the internal political influence of the pressure practices, then we are also talking about the fact that in Cerdan, the National Security Committee of the Parliament was informed that the Ukrainian Secret Service was also looking for journalists and politicians. Not long ago, a Ukrainian politician responsible for EU affairs said that if the opposition forces take power in 2026, there will be no further obstacles to joining Hungary.
Well, this is already in place. So the TISA party held a party popular vote, where 60% of the participants, these are obviously their interests, said that they support the joining of Ukraine. So the plan, the product is already in place, that you have to make another big party next to, or instead of the ruling party, you have to win the elections, and then you have to deal with the decisions made in Brussels. It's as simple as that. Now the Ukrainians come into the picture as if the most important question of Europe in the next 10 years will be the question of war and peace, that is, Ukraine. Do we take a country in a war or not into the Union? Do we allow war into the Union or not? But the Ukrainians play a role in this, because it's about them in the end. About the power of Brussels, but mostly about the future of Ukraine. And they see, obviously in the case of a country in a war, it's not surprising that this can be solved by force. That's why secret services are constantly conducting secret operations in Hungary. We don't talk about this. That's why I call it a secret service, because it's not public, but it's going on. Not just from Ukraine, by the way. Our international policy has a kind of semi-sandy, dark downside. The corners are indistinguishable. All kinds of things are going on. Every country takes part in this, protects, does its part. We also protect against this. We also have a secret service. We also monitor the other secret services. We monitor what is happening in Hungary. And we see, but I don't want to talk more about it, that there is very active Ukrainian secret service activity here. Not only in the direction of politicians, but also in the direction of the press. But they are looking for people in the world of intelligence, in the world of foundation, in the world of politics, in the circles of thought, in the world of journalism. Well, secret service methods describe this, by the way. So there is a very active Ukrainian presence in Hungary today. But we are also here, and we are watching.
At the same time, the TISA party also says that it does not support the accelerated Ukrainian chat housing. Where is the contradiction here? What do Ukrainians think? That the Hungarian opposition deserves more?
This sentence has no meaning anymore. So whether it is accelerated or not, there is a kind of membership here. The Union said before Before 2030, it wants to take up Ukraine. We can call it accelerated or whatever we want. It doesn't mean that they want to take them up. So this is what we are talking about. To bring the war with the Ukrainian membership and destroy the Hungarian economy in Europe. This is not a threat in the distant future. Our work plan is there. I am sitting there among them. So the Prime Minister, they will say this in years. What happens in which year? They want to close this process by 2030. So this is not about our children's future in the long run, of course. But this is what happens in our lives, for the future, and then later on.
There is another case in which pressure is being exerted on Hungary, or they are trying to, and this is the full withdrawal of the 18th sanction package and the Russian energy carriers. The Ukrainian President Zelensky recently asked the German foreign minister to defeat Hungary on support. What should be done to make you be able to win this?
Look, when a German wants to defeat us, and you went to school, then you think, let's stop for a moment. This is not going to be good. So maybe the Germans won't defeat us at all. We were twice in a world war. They defeated us well, so let's thank them. We don't want to be defeated by the Germans again. So let's stay. Let the Germans and the Ukrainians do their own thing, and then let Hungary do its own thing, and trust the Hungarians. It is undoubtedly true that there is a Zelensky, let's call it a Zelensky plan, which consists of trying to divide those two countries, this is Slovakia and Hungary, who are still buying energy from Russia, basically oil and gas, to ban it. And I said this in my last lecture, and I understand that they think that they are doing harm to Russia, although I add that the oil import from Russia to Europe makes Hungary less than 3%. So I don't think that this will make the Russians fall to the ground and put Vladimir Vladimirovich, but the situation is that they see any smartness behind this. The reality is that in Hungary, the number of families on the gas side, in the case of gas, will grow to 3.5 times, in the case of electricity, to 3.5 times. And I told people, I understand everything. Tell me an argument. Why should a Hungarian prime minister support an initiative that has the effect of 3.5 times of their own citizens and families? Tell me an argument. Why would a reasonable person do such a thing? I don't do such a thing. I defend, I stop, I ban, I fight against you. Don't ask for such a thing. This is what they call it, that they want to blame the financial situation. This is impossible.
We have talked several times about the fact that the director could grow to 3.5 times if this plan was implemented. By the way, would this happen when the government increases the support of families, introduces new measures for the support of young people? How would these supports affect the value, the effect, if more money should be paid to the director?
Well, we have to rethink everything. Of course, people live their everyday lives, and they are not very interested in what I say about the fundamental pillars of the economy. But their everyday lives, those who are listening to us now, their everyday lives have pillars for their economic life. If these pillars are removed or dismantled, then the whole life cycle that they could create is in danger of uncertainty or collapses. So how much money do they have? Do they have a job? So it is very important that in Hungary, those who want to work have a job. If another economic policy increases the energy price for companies, then companies cannot produce profitably. They cannot sell their products. Companies have to be forced to operate, and then the layoffs come. So a high energy price threatens unemployment. And without work, the security of any family is immediately restored. The second is the wages. Well, if they don't apologize, but companies are at a loss because of the high energy price, if they don't apologize, they say, "Dear Zsolt, well, unfortunately, you will have to accept that you will have less wages." Now we are used to this. In Hungary, there is no such thing since the national government. But it can go back. It was like this, but we don't remember it more than 2010. And the third thing is that there is no planning. So if they take away all our money, our cleaning, the high energy price, then the dreams, the plans for the next years. The families can cancel their planned joint plans. Then there is no buying a house. Then there is no bigger apartment. Then we are not happy if we can pay the director's bill. So we are talking about things like this when we say Zelensky's plan. This is not a lost political issue. This is something that reaches people's homes and workplaces. So we should not allow it, because it violates the financial security of the families. This is why we have to prevent Brussels from telling what is happening in Hungary. They have been preventing this for a long time. There is a simple principle. The TISA party also says the same in Brussels. This is now the rich's free access to water. Market prices must be allowed. I agree that market prices must be allowed, but if market prices destroy people, then we should protect people, not market prices. There are cases in war times when families must be protected. In this case, the national government must turn against Brussels and stand up for their values.
So this is a dispute with Brussels, but there is also a dispute in the Hungarian society about the past week's Pride. Is there a conflict as to who is behind, or was the majority of society in this matter? The organizers say, and the opposition says, that they are behind, because there were a lot of people out there. According to the government, the result of the 2022 popular vote is the deciding factor in this matter. What do you think should be looked at from this perspective?
Well, everyone has their own opinion about what they think about this issue. It's not good if politicians want to tell me what they think about something. I will know that, says the Hungarian, not only physically but also intellectually. They leave my brain alone, I will know. In fact, I know the best, says the Hungarian. There are difficulties, but it is also a great advantage in the case of a country that people demand independent thinking. And I think Hungarians are like that. If you don't accept it, or you don't know it, it's unlikely in politics. So everyone should pay attention to themselves. For example, I pay attention to myself in this matter, and I was also surprised that I thought this Pride issue was closed. Now, it's not that a demonstration is coming together, or it's never closed. People always have an opinion that they want to say, that they will come together more or less when, for example, a lot of people have come together and want to say first. But I thought that Pride as a social phenomenon, that we are beyond this, that this is no longer a serious danger. Because if I go to Western Europe and talk to parents, now let's leave politics, their pride is an everyday danger. So there is a sensitization in schools. If you look at a textbook where they sensitize boys and girls, it's terrible what they tell them about whether you are a boy or a girl, or maybe you are not. And then you decide, and then there is a fairy tale called Chipke Yosika, where they tell you how nice it is when two people of the same name live together as if you only knew that you are a boy or a girl. I thought about this because there was a popular vote in 1922, not only a parliamentary election, but a popular vote as well. And it was clear there, 3.5 people said, no, we don't ask for this. And 190,000 people said, I think they were on the street now. 190,000 people said, yes, they would like this. This is a good ratio. Let's stay around like this, not only in the election, but in the Pride issue as well. So I thought we were over it. But no, we are not over it. This is a real danger. Because the opposition decided, and the size of the demonstration is not interesting, but the opposition parties decided that they are now uniting with Pride. So they programmed our children, whom we thought we had defended, now they want to sensitize again. Now imagine, because it was like this in the years before the national government, that in the ownership and operation of the capital, there are schools in the capital. And then the mayor, who decided in Brussels that Pride should be in Hungary, organized and launched it, said, well, we operate these schools, we take responsibility, we sensitize. So this is not a game. So it's about our children, and I can't do anything about it. And luckily, the referendum strengthened it. 3.5 people said that we don't ask for this. So in the Pride case, nothing can be done. I don't want to argue with those who went there, because they are also Hungarian citizens. They are also part of our community. They also have an opinion. They don't agree with us, especially in the Pride issue, and they have the right to say this. So we don't want to get involved in any legal debate, because you have to stay away from politics. We don't fight against Hungarian people, we fight against foreigners and against their locals. So the fact that there is a culture of peace and non-aggression in Hungary, and such a demonstration goes down without a problem, I think it's a big deal. Then the authorities will do their job. Politics should stay out of it. But politics should not stay out of the pride debate, in the sense that it should not allow pressure and let it back into our schools and even into our classrooms. A teacher says, I saw a video like this, that he is already doing the demonstration in a state school. Meanwhile, this is illegal. He is doing the demonstration, and in fact, all the teachers are doing it, and they have to start it in the classroom. We also have to look at what's going on here. So there is a ban, there is popular vote, there are laws, national basic plan. So how does someone feel here in the schools? So we have our job here. This whole pride is a much more serious and more realistic and direct challenge than I would have thought before the pride in Budapest.